Okay, look at this first problem here on number 1. It says we have f of x equals, and then we have negative, and then we have parentheses around x minus 4 squared plus 3. This equation is in vertex form, so if it's in vertex form, you can go ahead and just look at the equation and tell where the vertex is. So the x value of the vertex, it would be this equation x minus 4. So the x value of the vertex, when I solve that equation, I get x equals 4. And then the y value of my vertex is this last number here, which is y equals 3. To graph this, you go ahead and make your graph. And you go to 4 and 3. Put your dot there. And then you look at this value right here. Since that is negative, we know that my parabola is going to open downward. So then we just draw our parabola opening downward. And that is your graph and your vertex at x equals 4. And y equals 3. Okay, on the second problem here, on number 2, it says that we have f of x equals 4x squared. And it says that we have minus 16x minus 1. Okay, it says determine the vertex, then graph the quadratic function. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and change this to vertex form. So to do that, first thing we're going to do is we're going to factor out a 4. And then we're going to take this 1 and move it over here by itself. The next thing we need to do is we need to complete the square on this middle part. So to complete the square, I'm going to go and take 1/2 of this number right here, which is negative 4. I'm going to square that. So 1/2 of negative 4 is negative 2, and negative 2 squared is 4. So I get 4 times x squared minus 4x. Now this number right here goes right there. And that's going to be plus 1/2 of negative 2 is negative 2. And negative 2 squared is going to be 4. And then that's going to be minus 1. Now what I do to my equation, when I add the 4 to it, I actually have to make sure that I balance my equation. But I'm not only just adding 4, I'm also adding this 4 times 4. So that's actually adding 16. So to balance my equation, I need to minus 4 times 4. So I end up with my equation at 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 4 minus 1 minus 16 . So now from there I've got f of x equals, I got 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 4. Negative 16 minus 1 is going to be a negative 1, and a negative 16 is going to be negative 17. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this middle part and complete the square on it. So I get 4 times x minus 2 squared minus 17. Now from this point right here, I can go ahead and find my vertex. So remember from the previous problem, your vertex is going to be the answer to that equation right there, which is 2. And then the answer to this equation, which is negative 17. It's already in interval form, or sorry, it's already in answer form. Okay, now we just need to go ahead and graph it. So to graph it, you make your graph. You go to 2, and you go down to negative 17. Put your dot there. So here we are at negative 2, or say at positive 2 and negative 17. And since this number right here is positive, it's going to open up. And that's what your graph will look like, and that is the location of your vertex. Okay, on number 4, it says our equation is f of x equals 2x to the 7th. And then we got plus 5x squared and minus 5. Okay, the directions on the problem says to go ahead and identify the right and left-hand behavior of the graph of the polynomial function. So you're going to remember from what we learned earlier is that if I have an x to an even power and it's positive out front, it's going to take on the characteristics of an x squared graph on its endpoints. And so the left is going to be going up and the right is going to be going up. Now if I have a negative x to an even power, it's going to take on the characteristics of an x squared graph going downward. And if I have a positive x to the odd power, it's going to take on the characteristics of an x cubed graph, and an x cubed graph is going to be going down on the left and up on the right. And then a negative x to the odd its endpoint is going to be going up on the left and up on down on the right. So to identify the behaviors, I always look at the very first term. This is what is known as the leading coefficient. So since this leading coefficient matches 2x to the 7th, it's going to match this positive x to the odd. And so that means that the left side is going to be going down and the right side is going to be going up. So notice it falls to the left and rises to the right. And so that's going to match the answer of, looks like, C. Okay, on this next problem on number 5, problem says we have f of x equals, and then we have negative 3x to the 4th, and plus 108 x squared. The problem says find all real zeros of the polynomial function. So I'm going to set this equation equal to 0. Then I'm going to factor it. So you're going to notice that to factor this problem, I notice there's a common negative 3 in both terms. So I'm going to factor out a negative 3 and also a common x squared. Now when I factor out the negative 3x squared, negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just going to be 1. X to the fourth divided by x squared is going to be x squared. And then I'm going to take 108 divided by negative 3 and I get negative 36. And x squared divided by x squared is going to be 1. I'm going to go ahead and factor this problem again. So I get negative 3x squared. X squared minus 36 is going to factor to x plus 6 and times x minus 6. Okay, now that I'm done factoring it, I can find all my zeros by setting each factor equal to 0. So when I set negative 3x squared equal to 0 and solve it, I'm going to get x equals 0. When I set x plus 6 equal to 0 and solve it, I'm going to get x equals negative 6. And when I set x minus 6 equal to 0, I'm going to get x equals 6. So those are my zeros at x equals 0, x equals negative 6, and x equals 6. So that's going to match the answer of B. Okay, as I look at this next problem, number 6. So number 6, it says use long division to divide. It says take 3x cubed. And then we've got plus 4x plus 8. And it wants me to divide that by, it says that I have x plus 3. So to divide this out, I'm going to set it up in my long division algorithm. So I got x plus 3. I'm going to take that into 3x cubed. Notice I'm missing my 0x squared terms. I'm going to fill that in with a 0x squared. And I've got plus 4x. And I've got plus 8. Okay, and I'm going to ask myself, what times x is going to give me 3x cubed? And that answer is 3x squared. Once I'm done finding that answer, I multiply. So I take 3x squared times x, I'm going to get 3x cubed. And when I take 3x squared times 3, I'm going to get 9x squared. Now I go ahead and subtract those. So I get 3x cubed minus 3x cubed is 0. 0 minus 9x squared is going to give me negative 9x squared. Okay, now I bring down my next term, plus 4x, and I repeat the process. I ask myself, what times x will give me negative 9x squared? So that answer is going to be negative 9x. So I'm going to multiply. So I take negative 9x times x, I get negative 9x squared. And negative 9x times 3 is going to be minus 27x. Now I go ahead and subtract. So when I subtract, I get negative 9x squared minus 9x squared is 0. And 4 minus 27x is going to be 31x. Okay, now I bring down my plus 8, and I repeat the process. What times x is 31x? So that's going to be plus 31. I multiply x times 31, I get 31x. And I multiply 31 times 3, and I'm going to get plus 93. Now I go ahead and subtract it. 31x minus 31x is 0. 8 minus 93 is going to be a negative 85. That's my remainder. So now I have minus 85 all over x plus 3. And that will be your answer. So we got 3x squared minus 9x plus 31 minus 85 all over x plus 3. So that matches answer C. Okay, on this next one, on number 7, it says it wants me to use synthetic division to divide. So I've got 3x to the 4th. Then I've got minus 9x cubed. Then it says that I've got minus 36x minus, and then it says that I have 45. And it wants me to take this equation, and it wants me to divide it by x minus 4. So do your synthetic division, you write down your constants. So I have 3, I have negative 9. Notice the x squared term is missing, so I fill that in with a 0. I've got negative 36, and I've got negative 45. Okay, in this box over here, I'm going to put the answer to x minus 4, which is 4. Now to go ahead and do your synthetic division, you bring down the first term, which is 3. You multiply and add. Negative 9 plus 12 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 0 plus 12 is 12. Multiply 4 times 12 is 48. Negative 36 plus 48 is going to be 12. And then 4 times 12 is 48. And negative 45 plus 48 gives you a remainder of 3. So now that I'm done with my synthetic division, I go ahead and write in my answer. So this would be 3x, take it down by power of 1. So that'd be 3x to the 3rd plus 3x squared plus 12x plus 12 plus 3 all over x minus 4. And that would be your answer. Okay, on this next problem on number 8, it says that it wants us to factor this. So on number 8, it says we have 2x cubed plus 7x squared and it says we have minus 17x minus 10. And it says one of my factors is x plus 5. So to solve this problem, you're going to use your synthetic division. So I've got 2, we've got 7, got a negative 17, got a negative 10. And now we're going to go ahead and take out the x plus 5 factor. So that's going to give us a negative 5 that we're going to take out of our equation. So again, using your synthetic division, you bring down the 2. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. 7 negative 10 is going to be negative 3. Negative 5 times negative 3 is going to be positive 15. Negative 17 and 15 is going to be negative 2. Negative 5 times negative 2 is going to be positive 10. And you end up with a remainder of 0. Now when I get that remainder of 0, that's how I know that I did this problem correctly. So now I just have to go ahead and write my equation. So my equation so far is x plus 5. That comes from this negative 5 right here. And then my other equation will be times 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. So I'm going to take this second equation and I'm going to go ahead and factor it. So I have x plus 5. So now factoring this, I know that the factors of 2 is 2 and 1, and the other factors here is going to be negative 2 and 1. I notice that 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, 1 times 1 is 1, negative 4 plus 1 is going to be negative 3. So 2 times negative 2 is going to be my outsides. Now my insides are going to be 1 and 1. So I do first 2 times what is 2, so that's a 1. And then what times negative 2 is negative 2, so there's another 1. I just fill in my variables. I got 2x plus 1 and x minus 2. And now I factor that problem. So factoring, I got x plus 5 times 2x plus 1 times x minus 2. So that answer looks like it's going to be B. Okay, on number 9. Number 9 says I got negative 2 minus 2i. And I'm going to multiply that times negative 8 plus 3i. To multiply these together, you got two binomials you're multiplying together, so you're going to use FOIL first. Outside, inside, and last. So do my first, that's negative 2 times negative 8, which is going to be a positive 16. Outside is negative 2 times 3i is going to be negative 6i. Inside is negative 2i times negative 8, which is going to be a positive 16i. And then last, negative 2i times 3i is going to be a negative 6i squared. Okay, I squared is equal to negative 1. So that means I'm going to take this I squared, I'm going to replace it with negative 1. So this gives me 16 minus 6i plus 16i, and I've got plus 6. Combine your like terms. I got 16 plus 6 is going to give me 22. Got negative 6i plus 16i is going to be positive 10i. So number 9, you just FOIL it out, multiply it, and your answer is 22 plus 10i. So that looks like that answer is C.